Hey, grown folks, reminisce with some feel-good music as we have grown conversations.
Join us on our journey as we apply knowledge to power. For together we are better.
Every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin. It's Grown Folks time. Welcome, grown folks, to all our listeners. Thank you for joining us at this journey, and to all the new listeners, welcome to the Grown Folks family. This is Everyday Talk with your girl Carmen and your boy Kevin.
What's up, fam? Happy National Iced Tea Day.
Iced tea. I like iced tea.
That's some good stuff right there.
I like iced tea.
Yeah. Okay, the first time ever, I'm agreeing with Dan.
But of course, you didn't bring any.
No, I did not. Okay, but he said Publix
with or without lemon.
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me.
Preferably without, but it's okay with.
No, wow.
No. You
That's
just messed all that
up. She set you
with
up.
Lemon.
She did.
With lemon.
She set you up.
Hey, family, as always, if you have not yet followed and liked us, make sure to do so. We're on all social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Podbean. And visit us at gfrworldwide.com. You are listening to Grown Folks Radio Worldwide. Today, we are having part 2 of our conversation of pursuing fears, but this time, instead of pursuing your fear, we're going to pursuing fears in relationships. And so, of course, you know how we always do before all this entire conversation, we like to celebrate it with some music. And this month we have an amazing indie artist. I think we always have an amazing indie artist.
Yes.
This one's just like they all like change their, I don't know, their rhythm. Is it the rhythm?
Well, I think each one of them have their niche.
Their niche.
Right. Each one of them have their niche, right? And RJ Exclusive, you know, he's out there, fam. He's out there. He's preaching, he's connecting with the community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, all of our indie artists are amazing.
Most of them do.
But RJ is adamant. So if you want to see some of the things that, you know, he does, you know, within his community, at his church, at different events, check us out, Grown Folks Radio Worldwide, on our Facebook page. I'll put all of his stuff on there for their family to check him out.
Yeah, I said in regards to our indie artists, but we always have such amazing indie artists, and they're always out there with us and making sure that they're also spreading the word, but also they're doing their own ministry, as Kevin is saying. RJ is no different.
Nope.
And we've had so many, and we always talking about our indie artists, but they truly become family, and he has become family, him and his manager, AC, who is also just a pleasant person to be able to speak to and just listen to his enthusiasm as well. They're very, very enthusiastic in regards to sharing the word. And so make sure you go out there and you find them. It's Ronald Harbin. You can find them in Facebook, and AC Jackson 4 on Facebook. You can also find them on Instagram, on Twitter, and YouTube. So make sure you're out there and you're listening to our indie artists, because this is what they do. They love to do this music. So
we love the connection.
We sure do.
And
Can I?
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to the fam. Last week's show, we had over 160 shares.
Wow.
For last week's show. That is
amazing.
Crazy. And we're so thankful for you and you know, your family, your friends, and we appreciate the love. All right, let's keep them going.
Yes, and you know what? Before we start any type of conversation, we always celebrate it with some music.
All right, guys, our indie artist of the month, Mr. RJ Exclusive. We're going to play Where God Takes You right here. Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin
on Grown Folks Radio.
takes you. Everyone can go. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say what God takes you. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go.
I've been a lot of places, seen a lot of things, but I never seen so many new friends. Never seen so many on my team. E2 crew was all a dream. It's a new phase. Thank God for all of my blessings, but I have a 3-minute confession. This many people around me not help me. How I came up, it wasn't overnight. Time and patience what led this flight. Lots of praying what rose this kite. Lots of patience night after night, and I'm still thankful. But where I stayed when I was down and out. Working 2 jobs, sleeping on the couch. Leaving work, recording in my trials. Too explicit, I'm sorry, but I never was the type to sugarcoat it. My true friends is Queen and Soldiers. My real team is Christian Holy. I never faked it. But they say I'm showing my true colors. Well, it must be wrong, cause we're around town, man. I came from the dirt, and that's his story. And my victory is not in you, or not in them, and what they do. Half of y'all don't even have a clue that without God there'll be no you. But I have faith that you'll prosper in your lifetime, cause God got me and I got mine. So we keep on praying, so we'll be fine. Ain't no hating in my blood. I swear I want all y'all to shine. I wanna see y'all so fly as y'all floating through the sky. It ain't no hate in my blood. I wanna see you shine. I wanna see you fly, soaring through the sky.
And where God takes you, everyone can go. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you, everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you. Everyone can go. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go.
Because I learned to base my life on Christ, and I won't fight. I go against his might, so I fight temptation and rebuke the hate. At the end of the day, we all God's creation. You not anybody, you all royalty. All God asks for is your loyalty. He said, won't you bow down to me? I'll make you bigger than your enemy. I'll let you live eternally. I'll bless you with more than things you see. I'll humble your soul with a peace of mind. This love I share, it is one of a kind, cause I am the truth. And the light up in the dark place. And at the ending of this race, I bless you to see my holy face. And
where God takes you, everyone can go. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you, everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you, everyone can go. Everyone can go. No, everyone can go. I say where God takes you, everyone can go. No, everyone can go.
Changing the mindset. We're breaking the mold, bringing back the love and care at Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin.
And that was Where God Takes You by our Indie Artist of the Month, Mr. RJ Exclusive.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, that, all of his songs is good. They're fire. I actually, this is he's one of the few artists that I've sent the music to my brothers to ask them what did they think, and they love his music. So, and they're younger than me. So yeah, that's a win.
Nice.
That's a win.
Very nice. Very nice. It's true. Like, I want to take a moment and say hello to the family who's online. We have Angela and Nichelle who are on here already. And as Nichelle saying, different genres. You're right. Different genres is the right word. Yes. And they're all great in their genres.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been absolutely blessed by the fact, like, we got the cream of the crop.
Yes. We sure
in
did.
every genre, in every style, and even their voices. Even if you have people in the same type of gospel R&B, their voices is just so unique. So it's been a pleasure. We're so thankful to everyone.
One of the big things I do like is that, they support us like we support them.
Right.
As, they drop new music or any highlights or celebrations that they have with their career. We love that. We want to share that moment with them.
Absolutely.
So we continue the support. So, hey guys, if you working with us now or work with us in the past, you're family, right? For life. And we're going to continue to build that relationship. We'll celebrate every win with you, and we hope and pray that you do the same thing for us.
Yes, I agree. We're so excited. But family, you know how it's time for that moment of knowledge dropping, gem dropping. I don't like nuggets, right? That don't make any sense to me. But that's just a Carmen thing for the fellas. And I want to take a moment and say, fellas, come and join the conversation. Come listen to what is being said, because it is absolutely useful and wisdom and a lot of good information for building. Right. And for all the women, this is a great time to also listen in, because it's something you can share with the men in your life. And of course, for the single ladies, something to look for and also to be able to use for when that person does come into your life. So family, it is time for Kevin's Manly Manners.
Thank you. Hashtag Go Tampa. No, Dan. All right, guys. Thank you for joining my segment of the show, Kevin's Manly Manners, where I simply talk to the fellas of the fam, kind of break down a little bit of suggestions, a little knowledge, as the First Lady was saying, little nuggets of good information to help us grow and become better men, right? So before we get started, as always, fam, we're going to talk about Jeremiah 29:13, which simply says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart." As always, the First Lady and myself and Dan, we personally invite you to see God in everything that you do, every decision that you make or that you have to make, every facet of your life, fam. We ask that you look for God. He will show you the right way to go, right? Okay. You ready?
Ready.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So this week we're going to, since we're pretty much for the entire month, we're going to be talking about fear. So, I felt like it was only, fitting that I address some of the fears that men have. Now, the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about worth, and we've been talking about, other areas of opportunity for men and how vulnerable we can be. But, with us talking about fear, it's only fitting that we talk about the six things men secretly are terrified of when it comes to relationships.
I am listening.
It's funny, fam, because I was going over these things with the First Lady last night when we were doing show prep, and she was just like, what? Yeah. Okay, so the six things men are secretly terrified of when it comes to relationships. Ladies, this is a good opportunity to take some nuggets from Kevin's Manly Manners, okay, and how to communicate and live with your husband, boyfriend, whatever. Okay. All right, number one, guys. Men are afraid of having to check in. Fam, men feel suffocated. We feel like every time we have to check in, we have to go somewhere or do something with our friends, we gotta get permission. You know what I'm saying? Men ultimately want to know that we can be trusted, that our time is in our control. Okay, so. This is
very true.
Yeah. You got to understand how the conversation went last night. Like I'm going to go through all of these, and I'm just going to just reminisce over the conversations.
All right.
Number two, guys, less guy time. Men love guy time. Us guys, we love guy time. Whether it's shooting pool, watching the game, sports, or whatever. Spending guy time together, it means a lot. There's a professor, Robert Dunbar, stated that men who maintain social groups tend to be healthier and be more generous. Okay. We recover quickly, and we're ultimately better men once we have our God time. Now, the highlight of this is it allows us, when we have God time, to feel like kids again.
Yes.
Are you just going to get out there and say that out loud?
I like my guy time. I'm sorry.
All right. So ultimately, guys, we like to feel like a kid again. Do the things that we normally wouldn't be able to do. Have conversations that we normally wouldn't be able to have, with the significant other. All right. Number 3, changing their home around. Changing the men's surrounding. Men are very protective of their surroundings, just like the ladies are, right? So, women, ladies, when y'all come in there and try to change everything up, if and when you guys move in together, be mindful, compromise, come together, find something that you can embrace together, and move forward. Don't come over that. Don't come in there and try to change everything. All right, it's not going to be a good look. I promise. All right, guys. Number 4. Being humiliated. Men are crazy fearful of being humiliated by the woman that they're with, whether it's cheating or whether it's humiliating the man in a relationship in front of other people. Okay, I think there are some women out here. Not every woman is like that, but there are some women out here that are kind of about that life.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And to be honest with you, they probably don't realize that they're doing it. Okay. Number 5, being cheated on. I mean, what person, I'm not even going to classify just men, what person doesn't like to, is afraid of being cheated on? Everybody is, because, as a man especially, it's already hard for us to become vulnerable. And if we find it, a possibility for us to be vulnerable with you, and you decide to, destroy that, any insecurities that we talk about, and then ultimately go into another relationship cheating, that's not a good look, right? So, just be mindful in what you're doing. You don't want it done to you, so don't go down that road.
Right.
And the last one, guys, we're talking about emotional baggage. When a man enters a new relationship, fam, we're looking for a clean slab. We're looking to start over. We're looking to start fresh. This, what's the word I'm looking for here? We don't want you to compare us to your exes, nor do you want us to compare you to our exes, right? So right. It's good communication, healthy boundaries. As the First Lady and I always talk about on Grown Folks Radio, healthy boundaries is huge. I think there's a lot of people out here with emotional baggage, but I think you can work through it with good conversation, right? If you need to have those tough conversations early, don't waste nobody's time. All right. True. So that will conclude the Manly Manners.
Yay!
Wow. Powerful stuff.
And look, and the First Lady didn't even say nothing.
Well, I said I was listening.
Oh.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
But when she said that, she leaned in and said, "I'm listening."
Right.
So
what does that mean?
I was just
reiterating.
I thought she was going to say something from last night. That's all I'm saying.
Here's my thing with that, right? When you have a godly relationship and you know that this is the route, the way you're going, and that, God has confirmed and so on. There's certain things that I understand that men need, as well as, time and space and all of that. But it comes with communication, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not willing to communicate and you're not open to communication, all of this will just become one of those items that is difficult to speak about, because the moment you want to go out and be with the fellas, or the moment you want to go out and share some guy time or some space, it can be perceived as just trying to get away. So I think that communication is key in regards to be able to hold that relationship, and be able to say, not the permission part, because it's not about the permission, but that going out, whatever.
But there are a lot of insecure people. I'm not just going to say women, in a relationship. There are a lot of insecure people, regardless of, whether you're a man or a woman. Mm-hmm. And if you're not in a good place, right, and you're insecure, yes. I mean, you can't go anywhere because you need to know every move that person is making.
Right, every step.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you have to address that, if you're the other person, you have to address that early.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to know if that's going to be something that you're going to be able to deal with. If there is light at the end of the tunnel on that, because nobody wants to live life that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If that person is willing to change, is that something that you guys can work through together?
Right.
I think is the win there.
Go, Dan. 1, 2, 3. Right.
Right.
Because that's what it sounded. Right. Right.
I agree completely.
It's true. I mean, you have to. It's insecurities play a part. Conversation is really important. Yes. Communication is really important. And if you happen to be the person in the relationship with the insecurities, there has to be a point where that's spoken about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you share that, right? Mm-hmm. Without any type of judgment. But how do we overcome this? How do we get through that? How do we, get to the other space and part where you don't feel insecure and you feel that your trust is not going to be violated? Because ultimately that's what it is.
Right. All about trust.
It's all about trust. And what's the root cause? What we talking about tonight? Fear. Fear. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. And with that, it's a moment of what we call inspiration, motivation. I said wisdomation last week. We're just going to make up words. But it's a time for just a moment to be able to receive what Dan has to share with us. And it is a quote to give by Dan O'Dooley.
Nice. Thank you for family and Carmen and Kevin. So this one was actually a tough one for me to come up with. Not because I'm very transitional, I think.
Transparent.
What's transitional?
Yeah, I had to help him
same
out.
thing.
Where are you transitioning
I'm sorry.
to?
I knew where he was
From
going
a quote?
with it.
He went from talk to quote. That's the
Totally messed up
transition.
Hey.
I don't know.
Okay.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I messed up.
All right. Back to Dan.
But yeah, it was definitely hard for me to come through with something tonight. Being transparent as I feel I am, I think. It's just when I finally saw it, it did hit me, and I really enjoyed it to a point where it really hit my spirit. So tonight's quote is, "Hate is not the first enemy of love. Fear is. It destroys your ability to trust." So basically just what we were speaking about, that trust factor of letting your man or woman go out.
Right.
Not checking in, but more just saying, hey, is it okay if I go out? You go out tomorrow or whatever. And just come together and become on that trust. Not even just that, but friendships too.
Right.
So I really appreciate that.
I like that quote because it's you can apply it to every kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whether it's a love relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship with God.
Right.
Fear is the real enemy here that blocks so many beautiful things. Which is why we wanted to talk about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, fear is that those shackles. It keeps you there. Mm-hmm. You're scared. You're scared to build a relationship with God. You're scared to have a relationship with Him because, it's unknown.
Right.
But the first day is going to cover all of that. I can't wait. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
No pressure. I think that was a great quote, especially with the conversation that we had last week and the conversation we're having this week. It's really important to be able to identify that. And a lot of times we're even fearful of that part. Mm-hmm. So I think that was great. So let's get into our conversation since we're speaking of it. And, last week we were sharing about pursuing your fear, and we dug deep within ourselves to really ask the questions, why are we fearful of our call or walk, or why are we fearful, period, right? And so today we want to discuss pursuing fear in relationship, and what does that look like, and why do we fear relationships in every aspect. So while we get ready for this conversation, we get to marinate in it. Of course, we want to give the definition of what it is. We want to take a moment and say hello to the family who is out there: Nichelle, Angela, David, Junifer, Anna, Mr. Larry. Thank you so much for listening and being here with us. Please make sure to heart us and give us thumbs up and let us know how we're doing in the conversation. But most importantly, join us on the chatter box and give your input, because we want to know, what are you thinking? Are we on track with this conversation? What are your thoughts? What are your perspective? It's equally important what you have to say. We're on this table together as a family, and we want to bring this conversation because it's important to our spiritual growth, and most importantly to us, our growth internally. So let's begin.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Green giant. No, sorry. Definition of relationship, right? It's the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. So for the sake of this conversation, the principles we share are applicable to all relationships. Ultimately, this conversation is about attacking the fear in the relationship. As last week, what we were speaking about is that pursuing is actually going after, right? So attacking that fear. What is the reason that we truly are fearing a relationship, and relationship in all aspects, not just intimacy, but friendships and fellowship and a relationship with God? Because if we're thinking we don't fear a relationship with God, then we are not being truly transparent. Right? Let's talk about that, because there's things in our lives that have happened that may have questioned that relationship. And so we want to dig in there and be able to uproot any of those type of fears and speak about them, because the family is always so, their input and their perception and their insight is just so marvelous. So we want to make sure that we have you guys involved in conversation and engaged with us. So how do we do that? How do we pursue that type of fear in relationship? So the first thing is we need to acknowledge the reason we are fearful in that relationship. This means call it for what it is and the reason it got to that point. Right? You have to call it for what it is.
Yeah.
And you have to get to the point of understanding, how did you get there? How did that happen that you are now fearful of any type of relationship, of that type of relationship, right? Because we could be great parents, but fear to get involved in a intimate relationship, in a marriage, right? Mm-hmm. We could be great parents, great wives for me, right? Or spouses, but then we're not really good with friendships. Mm-hmm. Right? So why? And so we want to dig into that, and we need to be transparent and honest, not transitional, transparent.
Wow. I'm not going to let that.
No, not right now. No, not for the show.
All right.
With ourselves. And so no matter how much it hurts, right? And make sure you do not let the hurt set in that it makes you run away in fear. So you get that? So if we're pursuing fear, we're attacking fear, being honest and transparent can be very hurtful. Like, for instance, what Nichelle is saying right now, right? Get to the root of the fear. Absolutely. Get to the root of the fear. Being honest and transparent about that and calling it for what it is can be hurtful. And instead, what it'll do, because it's uncomfortable for you to have to deal with it or have to work yourself through it, it will make you run away.
It will make you run away if you're really not ready.
Right.
You know, you have to, you know, like the First Lady is saying, it's going to be uncomfortable, especially if it's a deep-rooted issue that you don't want to deal with again. But it needs to be understood that you have to go through that storm again to get the healing that you need to move on.
Right. And one of the conversations that we had when Angela was with us on the phone, she indicated sometimes we cycle through things. Mm-hmm. And it's true. Yeah. A lot of times we cycle through things because we're fearful of having to be honest and transparent of the actual causes and the root of maybe that fear, that anger, that rejection, what actually occurred that got us into that point, or caused something in us that makes us so uncomfortable that we don't want to deal with it, or we immediately put up a wall, or we immediately push away, or we immediately don't trust, like you're speaking of in the manly manners, right? The insecurities that it starts to build up, and the self-esteem, or we become doubtful, and we start to wonder, and we start to ask questions, and so every move we make is kind of like eggshell, you know, because we're being guarded.
Right. Yep.
You know what? You know, so many of us, we stay in fear.
Exactly.
Because we're comfortable with it. We know what's going on. The First Lady made a good statement last week. You know, we know if you're in an abusive relationship, we know the trigger points. Right. You know what's going to happen if you know, you make that person upset and they're going to hit you or say something. You know that. You're comfortable with that because you know. Right. When you know, but you're still scared. You're scared now of going to the next level to attack that. Yes. Address that. Yes. And then you don't know the outcome on the other side. You know what I mean? So it's super important, like what the First Lady is saying, it's super important to acknowledge that fear. Whatever fear it is. Understand the root cause. If it's uncomfortable, embrace that. You know what I mean? Embrace it. Stay in prayer and keep it going.
Exactly. As our family is saying, Angela is saying, it's your own way of shielding ourselves from our part in the matter.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so ultimately what we are all saying is that we need to put the mirror back on fear.
Ooh. Wow.
That's pretty deep, right? And I wrote that. Like, I didn't steal it from nowhere. No, I'm just kidding. So what we're saying is that we want to put the mirror back on fear.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So we need to turn it back and ask ourselves questions like, why can I be myself in this relationship? Am I settling? Do I fear if I place rules, I will not be loved, or will I be rejected? So in essence, it's about asking ourselves those true important questions that hit the root as to what is going on, and be able to face that head on, being honest and transparent. And so sometimes we need to dig a little deeper and look at the construction of the relationship and how did these getting to know stages begin, right? So what I mean getting to know means when you begin a friendship, or you begin a fellowship, or you begin an intimate relationship, you fall into the getting to know, quote unquote, stages, right? Mm-hmm. The representation stage.
Right.
Yeah. The representation stage. But ultimately, what happened in that relationship or what happened in that friendship along the way that may have caused a hurt or a disappointment, or something that discouraged you or had us put up that wall because we couldn't trust it and we felt insecure in the whole entire relationship. And this falls true in every relationship. The difference in a parent-child relationship, because that's also a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Is that the child is influenced by the surroundings, the teachings, and the experiences they grow up in. And so while this is a good learning tool for parents who have small children to look at their relationship and continue to recreate, it's also a good indicator for parents with grown children to decipher the current state of the relationship. But the reason why we want to share this mostly is to place a reminder that we too were influenced and molded in our childhood. So when we look at the fear we develop and being transparent, determine whether these occurred during childhood. And sometimes this occurs in childhood and then it continues to build, and it's like layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you happen to have been, for instance, abused in any way, shape, or form as a child, whether that was emotional, physical, whichever form, and then you go on to build relationships, right? And you continue to grow in that, and then they continue to hurt you or abuse you in a certain type of way, emotional, mentally, and then it continues on. That's just layer upon layer upon layer. And by the time you know it, once you start seeing those type of triggers in people, right? It's almost like you're accustomed to it that you cannot see the triggers. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because it's your norm. So there's nothing prompting you or forcing you to address it. You're going to just remain fearful of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You learn at an early age that you're afraid of that. So you're going to stay there. Unless you have conversations like what we're talking about tonight, Grown Folks Radio. There's nothing really prompting you to acknowledge,
to get it out,
right? To acknowledge that it is a fear, and to attack it, to break through it. You'll just mold your life around that fear,
right?
You just won't do certain things because, as far as you know, you've always been afraid of that,
right? Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Or it doesn't produce anything.
Right.
It doesn't produce anything. I want to get to the family because Angela is saying that sometimes you don't feel that you are enough, so you create a facade of what you think the person you are interacting with will take the most liking to in order to prolong the relationship. Absolutely. You go for that. And Nichelle's saying wearing many masks to hide behind your fear in relationships is very common.
I mentioned
our family is awesome.
Yeah, they do. I love you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mentioned several times back when we did that boundary show, how people will paint you a beautiful picture. They will paint you a beautiful, beautiful picture, and just to attract you, to get you in.
Mm-hmm.
So be mindful of that.
It's like Angela saying the facade, right?
Yeah.
The representation.
Yep.
The good representation of yourself. But it's true as far as Nichelle saying that we're wearing many masks to hide behind our fear in relationships. Because what we do is we look at the potential in relationships. We go ahead and place this facade to be able to prolong it, as Angela is saying, because we are afraid of not knowing what it's like to be without.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Without that common, very normal type of relationships that we had. And if you think about it, right, what we produce in ourselves as far as thoughts is actually what we are attracting to ourselves. Because if we don't believe that, the Bible clearly tells us that the things that we are thinking of, make sure to bring it over to us, right? In Philippians 4:8, right? Whatever is noble, right, pure, lovely, concentrate on these things, right? And stay on those things. So if we're not concentrating on the good, the lovely, the pure, and the great, and we're concentrating on the bad, on the ugly, and on the common norm for us, our norm for us, then that's what we're going to be able to see from people. And because it's normal, because that fruit is normal for us to see and to bring into our lives, we will automatically go after that fruit. Because it's what we know. It's what, we're so used to the fact that the fruits that we find in our life are all either deception or rejection or abandonment or hurt or disappointment, that when we see that fruit, when we see that tree, we already know that fruit. So we automatically go after it, or we allow it to come into our lives because that's what we know.
Right.
So then when we see the other stuff that might look good and it's, you know, it's noble and it's pure and it's kind, and it's like, okay, what's wrong with that? Something's completely off.
It's different. Right?
It's completely off. And you start to find fault in that. So if you have a friend, for instance, let's say out of the intimacy level, if you have a friend that you can actually call no matter what, at whatever time, whatever you want to talk about, you can laugh about it, you can pray about it, you can discuss it, you can debate, you can disagree, but you and you can get mad at each other, but you always come back and talk to each other again.
Right.
Right? And that's true friendship. If you have that type of friend, but all you ever experienced in your life has been people who have backstabbed you, who have disappointed you, who hurt you, who have talked about you, who have gotten mad at you and walked away from you, the moment you come across a friend like that, you start to wonder what is the motive and what is the agenda of that person.
Yeah, that fear kicks in of whatever else that you went through.
Yeah, when is the other shoe going to fall?
Yeah.
I definitely went through the same thing with one of my friends, or ex-friends now. But and when I met Kevin, well, not really met him because I already met him before. But when I started talking to Kevin more and more, I finally was like, what's his real motive behind talking to me? Like, why? I don't deserve that. You know, this is things that I thought to myself.
Right.
And then after getting to know Kevin even more and closer, as close as we are now, that he is, I pretty much can call him whenever I want.
Yeah. I always tell him, you know, call me when you need something, bro. I got you.
And I feel like he can do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty, no, but
wow.
You guys, men, ladies, men. Ooh. No, just kidding. I think that was a great, example of what we're speaking of, because you are being transparent and saying, what was his motive? What was his reason?
Yeah.
I will tell you personally, for me, my life from when I was younger all the way through now, and I can honestly speak of that now, was pretty abusive. So, and I'm talking about every level of abuse, mentally, physically, sexually, whatever you want to call it, from very young. And I can remember as young as 4 years old, all the way through the marriage that I had of 18 years. And now everything in that marriage, which wasn't bad, but there were aspects of it that was abusive, mentally and emotionally, that was abusive. And at one point it was physical. And that's all I knew. So when I got out of that relationship, even though I wasn't the one who pushed the crumbling of the marriage, when I was out of that marriage, that I understood who I am in Christ, or I started to learn who I am in Christ and started to look for that and started to search for that, I realized and started to get to know myself and started to put the mirror up and being honest and transparent with myself. I started to learn that I really did not trust people. Like I really didn't. Like I just didn't. And I would automatically go into, well, what's your motive?
Right.
Why are you near me? Like, what do you need? What do you want?
Right.
You know, and at some point at the ending of the marriage where I was by myself in the first couple years, it was more anger based. And so if you were someone who was near me, I wasn't angry towards you, but I would immediately snap back and I'll have something to say because my guard was up, because my barrier was up, because I had since childhood felt and gone through different types of abuses that helped me understand that life was about abuse and negativity and hurt and pain. So when I got into a relationship that also showed me that, it only seemed that was the only way to go. And I had friendships that were great and that were awesome, but eventually that friendship also went into hurt and pain. So much so that at the time, my ex-best friend, at the time my best friend, and she was my best friend since like grammar school, was sleeping with my ex-husband.
I know that feeling.
And you know, those type of things, and then so you start to wonder, you can't let anybody get so close to you. Right. Or trust them so much, because you never know what they're going to do behind your back, what they're going to do to you directly, what they're going to do to those that you love. What are they trying to get from you? What are they trying to pull from you? And so you start to put up all kinds of walls, and you start to question all relationships that come near you. Yep. And so when you start into having a relationship with God, that transfers over. Mm-hmm. That transfers over. Yep. And if we are going to sit here and talk about that, God is, we are overcomers and conquerors and so on with Christ. We are. But here's the thing. If we're operating off of fear, we're just really just talking. We're really just talking, because there's no way that we are actually walking that talk. What we're doing is kind of placing this into our verbiage, but we're operating in the fear of, so much so that we get into a religion with God instead of getting into a relationship with God. And then we don't understand what relationship is, because we've never had a good relationship to be based off of.
Boom.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I did it. I'm talking to you about experiences of what I did. I got out of the marriage. I went to find myself and who I was, because honestly, when someone asked me this very simple question, what do you like to do? I could not answer it. I could not answer that question. Like, I couldn't answer. You can ask me what my son liked to do, what my daughter liked to do, what my ex-husband liked to do, but I could not answer that question about myself. I went into the closet and I saw nothing but clothes that were black, shoes that were black. And when I go back into my memories as a teenager, what I enjoyed to do was have color coordinated shoes with shirts and all kinds of colors. And I had red and white and blue and purple and all kinds of things, and neon, because those were the colors of the time. And that's what I enjoyed. But I had to go back into my childhood to understand what had led me to the point where I was.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
Where I was. And then how did I allow all of that to happen? And then now how do I break that? And it took time to get there. It took time. But I didn't get to understand what relationship with God was until I started to understand what trusting was. Because if I'm not a trusting person with anybody, I'm not trusting God either. What I'm doing is I'm giving him a little bit of a trust, a percentage. It'll be like, okay, I'm going to give you this trust. We'll see what you do. And if it doesn't happen, well, I'm going to take that back.
That's facts, though.
Yeah.
That's facts.
It happens.
Yeah. I mean, especially if that's your default.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to understand who God is. You're trying to do that, especially in your early walk. You know, you're trying to figure out who God is, how powerful he is, what he's going to handle, how's he going to handle it, you know, because you have to, you know, when we're having a relationship with God, it's faith, right? Mm-hmm. It's believing that and knowing that God is going to take care of your situation.
Exactly.
You know,
and it's such a hard concept to grasp.
It is. You're very fearful of letting go.
Absolutely.
Of letting go.
Stop being in control. God is in control.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing that people need to understand, control is a perception. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You really don't have control over anything.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's
give
just
wisdom.
Yeah, you know, it's God, this is good stuff. It's good stuff. You know, fam, listen, use this opportunity, fam, to hit the share button. As you see, Grown Folks Radio, we going deep, as we always do. The First Lady is on fire. She is on fire. But we are talking about a topic that needs to be spoken about. Fear in every relationship that we're in. And understanding how it affects you.
Yes.
How it allows you to move. It keeps you from moving.
Yes.
You know, building healthier relationships, finding that significant other that you may be looking for. You can't find them because you're fearful of something, right? Take the opportunity, look, as the First Lady was saying, look at yourself in the mirror. Understand that, you know, you have to dig in. You're going to have to address some issues, some situations, have some conversations if necessary, to get you out on the other side and eliminate that fear. Okay. And know that God has it.
And another thing that helps too is having a friend, a close friend that you can actually talk to, even if it's your mom, dad, anyone.
Yeah. We talk about that all the time with the support system.
Yeah.
You know, for guys and women. Excuse me. But it is very important to get with whoever your support system is. They love you enough to have that tough conversation.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not give you what they think you need or what you think you need to hear. Nah. If you wrong, they need to love you enough to tell you, yo, Kev,
you messed up.
You're wrong.
That's not it. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, when I was talking about the manly manners today, and you talk about guy time, I'm at an age right now. I'm not trying to be in the club, for example. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying? But it could be that group meeting. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where you get together and, you know, you go somewhere and have lunch or dinner with the fellas, but it's an opportunity to talk.
Right.
Yes.
You know, it's an opportunity to talk. And like I said before, not every guy friend or not every female friend that you have, if you're a lady, you know, are you going to have that conversation with, because people have agendas, people have other motives. So be mindful of that. But, you know, use that opportunity to get that support that you really need.
Amen.
Amen. I want to share what Nichelle, because she's being transparent, and she's saying a very close friend told me I need to stop comparing people God placed in my life to those that hurt me in the past.
Yeah.
She said, not only am I blocking my blessings from God through them, I am also blocking the person's blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Amen. Great wisdom that she gave you, your friend.
Yes.
I think, you know, a lot of times what are some reasons why people wouldn't trust God?
Why they wouldn't trust God?
Right. Or have or develop a relationship with him.
A situation comes up in their life and they think it's God punishing you instead of making it, as we talk about all the time, making that into a blessing for the future.
Right. But then if we do it that way, that's coming out, that's your perception of the deal.
Right.
Right. You know, I think a lot of people are afraid to have a relationship with God because he's not going to handle it possibly the way
you want.
The way that you want to,
yeah.
in the time frame that you want it done. Right. So, was it Romans 8:28? Yes. All things works out. So, but it's going to work out for your good, but it may not be the same path that you want. So, I think a lot of people are afraid of having that relationship with God because he doesn't do it the way you want to do it all the time. Exactly. When you want it done.
Yeah. I think that it's also because, in some aspects, it's not tangible. God's not tangible, right? You can't just physically speak with him. Or, you know, you've based it on religion, or you've based it on situations in your life where you knew that people went to church, but they weren't necessarily godly. Right. So you associate that person with God, you know, and so if that person's that way, then that's not a God you want to serve, or that's not a God you want to get to know.
Right.
And that's just being honest. And sometimes it's just you're praying and you're hurt and you're disappointed, but in your prayer you're asking God to do something, and then he doesn't answer it, or he doesn't answer it the way you want, or he doesn't answer it timely. So then in that turn, as you were saying, Kevin, that it has to do with, you know, taking the control back.
Right.
Yep.
Don't do him like that. Don't do him like that.
Michelle said, I've heard some say it's because they can't see him, which is very true.
Well,
yeah, because he's man, but that's real though. That's the mindset of so many people.
Yeah.
There's so many people, and I mean, I get it. You know, it's he's amazing. He's going to do it. You have to get out of your emotions. Mm-hmm. You have to get out of your mind. You got to get out of the way. You know what I mean? You want to take control. You want to have control over whatever the situation. But 9 times out of 10, the way you do it is not going to work anyway. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. You know, when it comes to a relationship, you know, you staying in a relationship longer than you need to. The good Lord is trying to pull you out. But no, I got this. You know,
no. Yeah, I can change the person.
Yeah, I can change the person. I can change the situation. You know, I'm going to make it work. I'm good. I appreciate you.
There's some good.
Yeah.
You know, it's better than the before.
Right. But, you know, one of the good things that works for me, and I know we getting tight on time, fam. One of the things that works for me is, you know, knowing the way that God wants you to go. When I had my situations going on, was a sense of peace. You know, I used to always, you know, the first lady will, you know, be the first one to tell you, I'd be like, I don't hear God talking to me. You know, I would love to know what the good Lord wants me to do. He just needs to tell me what he wants to do. And then when I know he's going to tell me, I'm going to do it. So I'm going through life waiting for this almighty, powerful voice to say, Kevin, you're going to do this. No, that's not how it goes down, fam. You know, it's a soft whisper. It's a sense of peace to let you know the direction you need to be going. And every decision that you make, the right way is the peaceful way, right? Because we all know that there's no craziness, there's no foolishness, there's no unease when the good Lord has his hand in it.
Amen.
That's
very good.
And not only that, but sometimes it comes from other people too.
Yeah.
Coming, not really shouting at you, but just saying, hey.
Well, that's a confirmation.
Yeah.
That's confirmations. If you know, and you know, we've said it so many times before, God wants you to ask him questions. He will answer you. And I learned something last night. You know, we talked about delay.
Right.
And how delay is, we don't look at delay as an enemy. You know, this is just a nugget, guys, that Grown Folks Radio is going to continue to drop.
Nugget, jump.
Really. Delay. We don't look as a family, as a body. We don't look at delay as a enemy. Mm-hmm. Because we're like, oh, if it's not happening now, it's because God doesn't want it to happen. That's not true.
It's not always true. Yeah.
God wants us to be persistent. He wants us to ask. Don't be afraid of him. Don't be afraid of having a relationship with him. Talk to your God. Pray over and over and over. Consistency is the key, guys. Pray for it. Okay? Pray for it. Consistency is the key.
Yeah.
Kevin's having a final thought.
Wow.
No.
He's having a final thought.
No.
I actually like it.
Kevin doesn't do final thoughts.
She's going to use it.
No, actually, no. It's true.
Yeah.
A relationship with God, a relationship with anybody, it takes consistency. It takes work. It takes dedication, determination. It takes communication. It takes time to build a relationship. And God's no different.
Right.
You know, God's no different. The difference between God is that he already loves us. We're not waiting for somebody to decide whether they love us and they want to accept us.
Right.
God already accepts us. He already loves us, period. He's just waiting for us to open up the door and say, hey, here you go. I'm giving you everything. And I'm surrendering everything. And I want this fear. I don't know how I'm going to walk myself through it, but I know you're going to carry me through it. And so every step I take, I know you're going to be with me. But that's about relationship. And the only time you're able to say, I know you're going to do that is when you're able to trust. But to get to trust, then you got to get out of that fear.
Right.
Right?
You got to get out of it.
So in order to do all of that, we need to know, we have to be transparent. We have to be bold. We have to know who we truly are and understand the reason why Christ came for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why he came for us. This is all, he created us. He came for us because he said, you are mine and I'm coming for you, but I need you to also want me. Because we as human beings never want to be in a relationship that nobody wants us.
Right.
In the norm. So God is saying, I want you to also want me. I want you to understand who I am. I want you to know that everything I have available to you is available, but you got to give me what you got.
Right.
So then I can mold it and transform it.
Facts.
You know, my old pastor, not old, but my youth pastor used to tell me, if you're not hearing from God, how much are you actually talking to him?
Oh.
Well, Kevin and I kind of had that relationship, conversation. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm guilty too, so that's why I said it.
No, it's being transparent. Let me tell you, the First Lady gets on me a lot because I can be more consistent. You know, a lot.
I think we all can.
Yeah. You know, and it's you know, it's a beautiful thing, you know, being with the First Lady. I'll be the first one to tell you because you know, she's bold. She's passionate about God, and she sees the beautifulness that I have, the message that I'm supposed to be bringing. So she presses me for that. I had a good conversation with her about a week ago when I was telling her, and she, you know, I was like, you know, the good Lord knows what I'm supposed to be doing, but he had to give me a strong woman to push it out of me.
Yep.
You know, because I was going to be stubborn and not see it and not do it. Having a strong woman with me that's going to push the right buttons to get it out of me.
Yep.
Fellas,
that's awesome.
That's a no. That's a no.
And
what I'm saying with that is that it's not about that, right? But if you, as Dan was saying, if you want to hear from God, you need to speak, right? If you want to have a relationship with God, you need to seek him. And if you want to understand who you are in Christ, then you got to learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right on.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm
so ready.
I'm sometimes ready.
Family, you know what time it is. This is my favorite segment of the show. It is the most beautiful thing you will hear on the radio today. Family, let me introduce you to Carmen's Final Thought.
Thank you, family. Thank you so much for putting your input out there on Chatterbox. You guys are amazing. We have the most amazing family. Thank you so much for supporting us and being here with us and just joining this tough conversation that we so all need to have. Pursuing fear, as Angela said long back, is that it's so ironic to put those words together, right? However, those words together actually gets us to attack our fear. And really, the fear is whatever we have rooted inside. And in the method of attack is actually to go and look at it, face it, be transparent, being honest, and acknowledging what it truly is in our lives and how it's affected our growth and our relationships, how it continues to affect us today. And what are the steps that need to happen to have a breakthrough? And we're going to be talking about that next week. But right now, getting to know who God truly is in your life and having that relationship, that fear of a relationship with a God that maybe, you know, as Nichelle was saying, because we don't see him, because we can't have that Moses type of relationship and be able to speak to him face to face. Sometimes those things can push people back, or the experiences they have in church, that church hurt pushes them back, or the experiences they've had with church people or with godly people have pushed them back. And I'm actually going to say church people, because really, if we have that type of experiences and we know who God really is, that's not what we're supposed to be doing to our brother and our sister. So, you know, a lot of times our fear can come up in different methods, and it can come up in anger, and it can come in sadness. It can come in depression. It can come in so many different facets. And it's really about asking, why am I truly fearful? And then go and attack it with the word. That's how we attack it. We go and we find scripture that lets us know that do not be anxious. Do not worry about anything. Instead, with everything, pray through supplication and thanksgiving. Just pray, right? Ask him to help you reveal what that is, but be ready for it. Don't ask for something you're not ready for. Be ready for it, because when God reveals that to you, that means you have to face it. And sometimes that's going to hurt, and peeling that onion is going to make you hurt and cry. But ultimately, what's going to happen once you release that fear, once you walk in that faith, you'll be able to become who he has created you to be. Faith is without sight, right? The word tells us faith without works is dead. So that means that faith and work has to go together. And if faith and work goes together, the opposite of being dead is alive. Alive means having power, right? And the word tells us that he does not give us a spirit of fear. He gives us one of power, of sound mind. So if he gives us all of that and getting to know him and having a relationship with him, then the benefits of what we have with him is greater than any fear or anything that's out there for us. When we fear what he has placed in our lives, in our hearts, in our families, and in our friendships, in our fellowship, in our ministries, then we are actually saying, I'm not sure, God. I'm not sure. I'm doubting you. And I'm not sure if I can trust that. And so if on the flip side, if we decide to take that step of faith, then we're saying, Lord, we are trusting you. I am trusting you. And even though I cannot see it, I am trusting you and believing in you, because I know that you have created me for this time. And no matter what comes, you're going to use it for good, because Romans 8:28 says it. And no matter what happens, I know you're going to have me. No matter if the storm comes and I have to be still just to get to know that you are God, I know you're going to make it happen. I know, like David knew, that no matter what army comes against me, no matter what comes, what weapon is formed, nothing's going to happen to me, because you're going to vindicate me. You're going to save me. You're going to bring me through. And I'm going to be victorious because you are with me. You're the one who backs me up. That's the type of relationship we're talking about. That's the type of relationship we desire to see you have. We desire to have too, because it is the most strong relationship, the surest relationship. And let me tell you something. When you allow God to have a relationship with you, and you have a relationship with God, he surrounds you with people of the same mindset, and he surrounds you with true people, and he surrounds you even with those that you might need to kind of, flag them a little bit. But the difference is that your discernment is already in place, and you're able to see it, and you're able to capture it before it actually gets near you. See what I mean? He is our protector. He is our defender. He is the path in which we are overcomers and conquerors, more than conquerors. That's what we have in him. So fear is not part of it. When children are born, they can run straight into a street, fearless. We're the ones who panic because we know what could happen. But they have no fear. So that means the spirit of fear is not upon us when we're born. It's created. But what created that fear? That's the point we want to get to. What created that fear? Every strategy, every method will come towards you to take you from the path that he has placed in front of you, to take you from the journey. You know what's the difference between people who make it and don't make it? Consistency. They don't give up. They keep going. They keep pushing. They're dedicated. To have determination. They make it a priority. When you make God a priority, when you make your relationship a priority, everything else has to fall right where it needs to fall. And it lines up just like a puzzle piece, leading you straight into your destiny, into what he created for you. So stay with that. And next week, make sure you're with us, because we're going to talk about breakthrough and how we're going to get to breakthrough, because it's time for that. This is the season. This is the moment right now. Right now. during this quarantine and all this craziness that's happening, this is the place to be in secret with God so he can mold and transform and do what he needs to do with you, with me, and with us. Hey, family, you know how we always do? Here on Grown Folks Radio Worldwide, we always celebrate the one and only. The reason for our journey today is no different. And we celebrate him with our Indie Artist of the Month, RJ Exclusive, with One's Up. But before we do, we want to leave you with these thoughts.
Family, remember, change is a process. Growth is a process. God loves you enough to allow that process. So just trust the process.
Be a blessing today to make an impact tomorrow, Grown Folks Radio. Impact tomorrow. You are that blessing.
Guys, we want to thank you for joining us for tonight's show. We hope and pray that you were able to pull something from it. Family, we ask that you become a vessel. Be a vessel of the word, of the message. Somebody around you needs to hear this.
Yes.
Somebody around you needs to hear this message. Connect the dots. Allow God to use you. Okay. Make sure you join us next week, fam. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Grown Folks Radio Worldwide. Everyday Talk. Carmen and Kevin and Dan O'Toole.
Dan O'Toole, we want to say hi to Sergio, and he did drop a gem. He said, asking it will be given to you, seeking you will find, knocking it will be open to you, about relationship building. Yes. And next week, we're talking about breakthrough. So make sure you join us.
Boom.
Hey, family. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Be safe.
You know, I told my little brother, I said, look, on this one right here, I ain't gonna tell nobody about it, you know. I'm gonna be me on this thing, you know what I'm saying? I love God, but, you know, sometimes you gotta be thankful for other people, you know what I'm saying? People that helped you along the way, that God blessed to put in your path to meet. This one for y'all, man. It's so.
This one for everybody who believed it. There's so much right now, I'm just receiving it. Never seen so many people out here loving me. I thought after my ex, it was no more to me. But God never gave up on me. Listen, when I gave up on myself, I thought I was alone for a little minute. Now I realize he was always there. Cause people always hating, saying I could do better. But my family always got me. God loves all my efforts. So why they plotting on my downfall like I can't see? I'ma do this one for everybody who believes. Put your ones up. For the people who love, put your ones up. For the people who care, put your ones up. For the God we serve, put your ones up. If you know he's there, put your ones up. For all the haters watch, put your ones up. Man, cause they see you shine, put your ones up. If you had faith and believe, put your ones up. Just watch and hear a sing. My time was all off, rushing God like I was paying him. But he was waiting on me to see if I was really with him. Showed off too much, got changed, and then I got cocky. Couldn't have a girl because she felt like I was some timing. I put a hole on my blessing through listening to others. All I wanted to find are things to give to my father and mother. Tired of making a minimum wage and having to struggle. When I see bad people pulling up in the big Hummers, I was hating, I was wrong, cause we all go through it. If you got it right, you're blessed, whether it's a Benz or a Buick. They had bigger problems, people struggle every day. I'm blessed to be alive, I thank God every day. Sometimes I get weak, but that's when you pray. Sometimes you fall off, but that's when you pray. I ain't worried about tomorrow, I'm worried about today. If you feel the way I feel, man, this is what you say. Put your ones up. For the people who love, put your ones up. For the people who care, put your ones up. For the God we serve, put your ones up. If you know he's there, put your ones up. For all the haters watch, put your ones up. Man, cause they see you shine, put your ones up. If you had faith and believe, put your ones up. Just watch and hear a sing. Every day another problem that we all gotta face. Another day, another dollar that we all gotta make. Another day, another bill that we all gotta pay. But as long as you're living, you just a blessing away. So brighten up your day with a smile on your face. The devil wanna see you down, but today he gonna hate. We living in the world, but we not of it. So put your ones up, my brother, cause your time is coming. Put your ones up. For the people who love, put your ones up. For the people who care, put your ones up. For the God we serve, put your ones up. If you know he's there, put your ones up. For all the haters watch, put your ones up. Man, cause they see you shine, put your ones up. If you had faith and believe, put your ones up. Just watch and hear a seat. For the people who love, for the people who care, for the God we serve. If you know he's there, for all the haters watch. Man, cause they see you shine. If you had faith and believe, just watch and hear a seat. Put your ones up.
Hey, grown folks, reminisce with some feel-good music as we have grown conversations.
Join us on our journey as we apply knowledge to power, for together we are better.
Every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Grown Folks Radio, Everyday Talk with Carmen and Kevin.